I would love to see, Jacob make his peace with the pond. I think it took so much from him, so it's difficult for him to see it as like this, you know, like as an adventure. It's more of a curse to him.
Kristen Maldonado here from Pop Culture Planet. Spencer, it is so great to chat with you again.
Excellent
I
keep chatting.
I'm so excited because, well, first of all, I gotta say congratulations on your wedding. You guys looked incredible.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
I
very
mean,
much.
this year you have two shows on at the same time, The Way Home, School Spirits. You're feeding us, you're killing it. I'm obsessed.
Oh, thank you so much. It's awesome to be working, and it's a great time.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I mean, I want to go back a little bit to the beginning of this season because one of the big focus points that fans have been so excited about was that big Dell and Jacob reunion. And I wanted to hear about it from your perspective and what that was like to film that, because that was huge for everyone.
Yeah. Well, we shot the beginning of that sequence in season two. So I was curious when it came out, and it was a cool choice for them to save it because it was just such a emotional, impactful moment the way to kick off the third season. And then the second part of that sequence where we're all sat at the table, kind of debriefing Dell, uh, was shot in the third season, and I was kind of simultaneously jumping back and forth between School Spirits and The Way Home. So I had to shave my beard, and we had this incredible um, craftswoman named Faye who came in and hand glued yak hair to my face so that we could match that. And yeah, I think it was pretty seamless, but it was
Oh
cool to
my.
like all together.
That's really cool though to hear that like you were doing both shows at the same time because they're such, I mean, they're both kind of like genre shows with the time travel and the ghost, but they're also like completely different characters. Like one you're a high schooler and one you're like a 30-year-old man who's like missed out on like a lot of his life in the modern day. So how do you sort of like balance those different mindsets when you're kind of coming into these kind of projects?
In my mind, all kind of characters have to come from a place within you. So finding that truth in everything is kind of my anchor always. But yeah, it's interesting because there's certain elements from both characters that sort of cross pollinate. I find, and for me at least, watching, I enjoy how some of the humor and some elements of the characters are kind of similar in a lot of ways because they're both coming from me. So yeah, it was really cool but a lot of work, I must say. In retrospect, I don't know how we managed to juggle all that.
Oh my goodness. Between the yak hair and yeah, it sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
And this season with Jacob, he's going through it. He's trying to figure out how he exists in this new time, which is already jarring, but he also has so much trauma that he's like dealing with that's like haunting him. What can you tell us about your preparation for this season?
We wanted to make sure that there's an element to him that feels like he's been there for 9 months. So we skipped a lot of the which I was actually really looking forward to, but like a lot of the moments of like Jacob discovers what cell phones are, and like, you know what I mean? And there's a couple moments that still make it through. There's one moment where he sees Elliot's coffee machine and he's like enamored by that was like
Right.
a that was like an hour-long process for him, getting wood and starting a fire and the beat everything. and and yeah, I think as far as preparation went, just kind of staying true to the scripts, the amazing scripts that Alex and Heather and Marley and the whole writing team put together. They really craft together some beautiful words for us to bring to life, and a lot of it's on the page. I love a lot of the humor they brought to Jacob in the front half of the season.
Mhm.
'Cause there's so much to play with there, with him getting drunk at the bar and revealing too much and all that.
It was also interesting to see you then like you know, the I guess the changes in your character when you do go back to the 1800s. What was that like kind of going back to the 1800s as, this new version of him?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. There's a scene in episode two where he tries to have kind of an open conversation with Dell, and he lets her know that I was a bad person in 1814. I stole, I belong, I should have been in jail. I did things I can't take back. I think the subtext for that is like him and Thomas had to do some pretty bad stuff. Jacob's, maybe had to take a life. He's had to do some things that maybe made sense in that era, but now that he's confronted with the modern world, it feels completely. It's a crazy thing to even conceive of, and so I think that I think yeah, once he's back, he warned them all in the second episode, but there's another side to him,
Hmm.
a darker side, and a side that's capable of doing things that we wouldn't think of now, and you get to see that in the sixth episode kind of rear its head, and yeah, Jacob has a lot of demons.
I mean, the show is just known for all these different truths that are being revealed over the course of the seasons. And one of the big ones, which, it's funny, I didn't even really think about it until it was happening, but like Kat and Alice have been hiding a lot of things from everybody. And when they reveal to Jacob and Dell the impact that they really had on Colton's death, it's kind of like, oh, wait, I forgot nobody knows about this. What was that sort of like filming those scenes?
Yeah, I think the ground is so shaky that he stands on, and he's so fragile that these kind of revelations affect him in ways that we're not prepared for. That sequence was really interesting to film because I think the original version of the scene he had him going a lot more like kind of like yelling at her, and he shoved her in the pond, and it was
Hmm.
a real like, and I think on the day it felt like maybe a little Jacqueline Hyde, and where we landed was something a bit more like internal,
Hmm.
and she kind of tries to pull him in, and he retches away, and I
Hmm.
think that it hopefully that translates as less jarring, and hopefully there's a world where he can find his way back from a pretty ruthless action on his part. But yeah, I think I'm really interested to see how people react to him moving forward because yeah, Jacob has a maybe a slightly villainous streak.
Something else that I thought was really cool was when Jacob found out that Elliot has time traveled before. I feel like that sort of like piqued his interest. Like, wait, I didn't consider like I could get more time with people. I've just, been in the 1800s. So do you think that could encourage him to want to explore other time periods? And like, if you could go anywhere else in the, through the pond, where would you want to go?
I would love to see, yeah, Jacob make his peace with the pond. I think it took so much from him, so it's difficult for him to see it as like this, like as an adventure. It's more of a curse to him. But
Mhm.
his relationship with Elliot really progresses throughout the season, and they have that common ground because of Colton was a father to Elliot as well, and they're essentially like brothers. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, as the story progresses, if Jacob finds his way and finds his peace with this thing that's brought him so much turmoil, I would love to see him travel to what's an era I love. I love the Roaring Twenties. I think that would be a really interesting era for them to
Mhm.
travel.
Oh, I would love the fashion. That would be
Yeah.
pretty cool. And something else that was like shocking to me was this reveal that Jacob actually has had some extra time with Colton as a
Mhm.
teenager.
Mm.
What can you tease for us about that?
Yeah, I love that picture that the art department put together. It's always so funny when you see how the different departments come together, and that's a really cool tease.
Hmm.
And I think that the way it all ties in, it's coming up, and it's really well done. If I could say one thing about it, is that I love the actor Jordan who plays young Colton, and if we did or if we did not have a scene together, I think it would be a pretty interesting encounter. Yeah.
I love it. But you're right. It's so cool to see how they bring the characters to life in these like images and things. Because I remember for season two when they revealed your photo before they showed you, I was like, wait a minute, is that Spencer McPherson? Wait a minute,
Yeah.
for real? It's like cool because you get that little tease and it's like, if you know, you're like, wait a minute, okay, I'm obsessed. I want to switch gears a little bit to School Spirits. Because like I said, you're killing it. You have two shows on at once, which must be so much fun. The first season everyone was kind of a potential suspect, but I feel
Mhm.
like in this season, I love how you guys are all really coming together as friends, as like a team to help Maddie. What can you tell us about, you guys all coming together and sort of your friendship on and off screen and how that sort of evolved over the last season?
It's beautiful the way that they evolved all of our connection, because for a lot of the Alive cast, at least, we've really come together over the span. The show's taken place over a few weeks, so you're seeing these relationships forged in real time, and I love how we all have our place in our respective place in the Scooby Gang.
Hmm.
And Xavier has his I mean, with the developments that happened at the end of the first episode, he really has something to believe in for the first
Hmm.
time, which is really great to see for him, because he was so lost before, and he feels like he's found a tribe and he's found a purpose.
Hmm.
Um, Granted, in episode 5, which just came out, some of his ideas are slightly off base, but but he's
Oh
trying.
wait, you know what? I
Trying.
guess the salt from the from the clue package.
I love that bit. I love
Yeah.
that bit.
That
Yeah.
was so funny. You mentioned the first episode. I messaged you when I watched it because I was just like, that was crazy. I was obsessed seeing Xavier have that near-death experience at the end of the first episode and kind of open himself up to this ghostly world and be like, wait, this is possible. What can you tell us about how that experience changes him this season?
Well, I assume you've seen episode 5,
Oh
and
yeah.
that reveal about the fisherman,
Yeah.
crazy. And I knew about that before we started shooting, so I was kind of sitting on that information. And I mean, what that means as far as the larger plot is, Xavier has a way to help Maddie heal from whatever trauma she had, um, if he can manage to access that other side again. But
Hmm.
what that means for his character, I think the end of that first episode is, yeah, like I said, his eyes have been opened up. It's almost, I did a lot of research before season 2 about people who have these near death experiences and how they describe their lives as before and after. And
Hmm.
Xavier's kind of had this rebirth, and he's born again, and he's excited and he's hungry to help and try his best to be a better person. And and yeah, and I guess that bond he has with Simon, the only other person who's really experienced that, is was an interesting thing to play.
If you are interested in like near-death experience stuff, I don't know if you've seen the OA, but it is such a cool show. It's like these people having near-death experiences and it allows them to like see into other dimensions where they like exist in doing other things in other worlds and it's so cool and like figuring out how to travel to that other dimension. It was on Netflix. It had 2 seasons and I'm still mad that it was canceled, but it's
I'm ready.
crazy. The
I'm ready.
OA, OA.
That
Um,
sounds right up my alley. Yeah, I
yeah,
like that.
yeah. He's dated Maddie, he's dated Claire. Now he's sort of formed this, like, without him realizing, this anonymous online connection with Nicole and really
Mm.
just opened up. What do you think that's gonna mean for his sort of like relationships? I mean, he's kind of got a lot of options this season.
I think personally, I mean, selfishly, I think that Xavier needs to find himself
Hmm.
before he enters another relationship. He doesn't necessarily have the best track record, so I think that connection with Nicole, how that manifests, is remains to be seen. But he's definitely opened up with someone, which is a huge step for him. And
Hmm.
I know in episode 6, you get these little, you know, you can get drip fed information about him that as the audience you don't really know. I mean, because he's so aloof and withholding, um, and to see that he's kind of just a nerd
Yeah.
beneath all that is almost, yeah, it's like it's refreshing.
Something you said before also made me think about, sort of I guess like what the impact his near-death experience has had on him. Like I feel like he's opening up, he's connecting with people, he's open to the idea of these ghosts. You mentioned, I don't know, what if he needs to kind of tap into something like that again? It also
Mm.
makes me wonder if there's been some scenes where we're seeing you look at these ghosts and it even though you're not seeing them, it feels like maybe there's some like spidey sense a little
Yeah,
bit. Do you
There's a
think that he's got a little ghost sense going on?
when we were shooting, we played it both ways. We played, a way where he can see them, a way where he can't, and then a way that's more ambiguous. Um, just to kind of, yeah, see how people wanna would construed be the right word?
Yeah,
How people wanna, perceive that. But I think people fans are going to be excited to see how that unfolds, that kind of awakening he's had. And I remember another thing. I I remember when I was filming, a lot of my I would actually I'll take all these notes, and they're the notes that you can't see in those scenes in my book.
hmm
Uh, and in my head canon, like Xavier's just been deep online, and
yeah.
he's been researching all of these different religions and cultures' way of communicating with the beyond, and so he's sort of like um, he's like a deep Reddit like
Yes.
obsessive when it comes to this stuff, and that's where that whole salt thing comes to be, where it's like he's throwing things at the wall, and if they
Yeah.
connect, they connect. But I mean, maybe if the werewolf has the silver bullet and Dracula has garlic, I don't know,
You could be onto
ghosts.
something. Absolutely. I know when we talked last year, we talked about how like school spirits ended in a way where you guys were just like as shocked as we were watching it. Obviously, we don't know yet what happens in this finale, but were you guys as shocked? Were you as like prepared for what was coming, or were you like, "Whoa, what are we doing? This is insane."
The final three episodes really are
Mhm.
just like really good TV. Um, yeah, I don't think people are going to necessarily predict where it goes, but I really hope we get to do a third season because there's some interesting things left unresolved, shall we say.
Oh, I'm excited. And I mean, this season, they've been really pulling out the stops. These clues we've been getting every week, I'm
So cool.
obsessed. It's
It's so
so
cool.
cool. I
Yeah,
have like a bunch of them like with me. They're just kind of like in my office. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing. I'm trying to figure everything out. Like, they're really putting a lot in there.
it's
I love
genius. It's such a
it.
genius like idea to get people to actually get involved in where the story's going.
Yeah. And that's something else I want to ask you because, like, I think what's so cool about The Way Home and School Spirits is these are shows that have so much fan theory. Like the fans are like, we're talking about everything. There's some things that I'm like, what is that? Could that maybe? What
Yeah,
do you think about all that to be a part of a show that has that kind of community?
it's really really cool. I must say, like selfishly, I'm a little bit nervous to look things up about the projects I'm a part of, just
Mhm.
self-preservation and all.
Yeah.
But from what I have seen, there's some really, really cool theories with both shows where they're going. And I also have my own fan theories that I keep to myself.
It's just so fun seeing you explore these like worlds that are so different and like outside the box with ghosts, with time travel. If you could take Xavier and Jacob and switch them into their other shows, how do you think they'd
Hmm.
each do in each other's world?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, I have thought about the idea that in school spirits, um, whatever that land was before it was a high school,
Hmm
I wonder what spirits walked that ground. Do you know what I mean? What was
Yeah.
Wisconsin like in the 1800s? I don't know. Maybe Jacob, if he was a ghost, that would be an interesting dynamic. Like
Yeah.
a like 1800s Jacob roaming the halls of Split River.
Yes.
How he would fit into the study group and all
hmm
that. And Xavier in the way home. Hmm. I mean, he's so out to lunch this season, and everyone on the way home is so concrete in their pursuit of what's next. And I feel like Xavier would slow everyone down in the way home.
I think he'd definitely have a lot of theories. Maybe he'd be helping Elliot with his book.
Totally. He'd be like, "What model of time are we doing? Hot tub time machine? What kind of time travel is this?"
Yes, I love it. I love it. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. Congratulations. You're killing it. I love to see it. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you. You too. Consider subscribing if you like this video and get even more entertainment news at popcultureplanet.net. See ya.